Oxford University is older than the Aztec Empire. Not slightly older, not a generation older. By the time the Aztecs built their first pyramid, Oxford had already been running for over 300 years. 300 years! Here's the problem. When you picture Oxford, what do you see? Professors, gowns, cobblestones, rowing, punting on the Thames. A very British institution producing prime ministers and Nobel laureates. It feels ancient, yes, but ancient in a polished, preserved, still functioning kind of way. Ancient like a museum that never closed. Now picture the Aztecs. What do you see? Pyramids rising out of jungle, ritual sacrifice, a civilization swallowed by history. Something that feels not just old, but gone, buried, excavated. Your brain reads still operating as recent and extinct as ancient. That's the lie. Oxford didn't stop, the Aztecs did, and your brain used that as a timestamp. Let's go to England. 1096. The Norman conquest is still fresh. William the Conqueror died just 9 years ago. England is a country still figuring out what it is. And in a small city called Oxford, scholars have started gathering. No grand founding ceremony, no royal charter, just teachers and students meeting in rooms arguing about theology and philosophy and mathematics. Nobody decided to found a university, it just happened organically, because Oxford was a convenient place to learn. Then, in 1167, King Henry II had a falling out with Thomas Becket, his own Archbishop of Canterbury, and banned all English students from attending the University of Paris. Overnight, thousands of scholars needed somewhere to go. They flooded into Oxford. The university exploded. By 1249, it had its first proper colleges: University College, Balliol, Merton. Oxford didn't have a founding moment. It accumulated, century by century, crisis by crisis. It survived the Black Death, the English Civil War, 2 world wars. It is still there today, still teaching, still arguing, still punting on the Thames. The oldest university in the English-speaking world, founded, if you can call it that, in 1096. Now, the other side of the world, central Mexico. Around 1250, a nomadic people called the Mexica are wandering the Valley of Mexico looking for a place to settle. According to their own legend, they were searching for a sign, an eagle, perched on a cactus devouring a serpent. When they found it, that would be home. They found it on a small island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, an unpromising, swampy, difficult place that nobody else wanted. In 1325, they built a city there. They called it Tenochtitlan. At this point, Oxford is already 229 years old. There are Oxford graduates walking around Europe who are grandchildren of men who attended Oxford. The institution has already survived riots, plagues, and a royal ban on studying abroad. The Aztecs are just getting started. By 1428, through war, alliance, and sheer force, they had built an empire. The Triple Alliance of Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan dominated central Mexico. This is what we call the Aztec Empire, the moment it truly began. Oxford was 332 years old. Here's a detail that makes this even better. In 1209, while the Aztecs were still a nomadic tribe wandering the Mexican highlands, a group of Oxford scholars fled the city after a student accidentally killed a local woman. The townspeople started rioting. They began hanging scholars in retaliation. The fleeing Oxford academics set up a new university somewhere safer. They called it Cambridge. Oxford's great rival, one of the most prestigious universities on earth, was founded as a refugee camp for scholars escaping a mob. Cambridge is also older than the Aztec Empire, by over 200 years. The 2 oldest universities in England both predate the entire Aztec civilization. Now here's the part that really twists the knife. The Aztec Empire, the civilization your brain filed under ancient, lasted less than 100 years. 1428 to 1521, 93 years as a dominant power. Then Hernán Cortés arrived with Spanish forces and their indigenous allies, laid siege to Tenochtitlan, and it was over. Oxford had already been running for 425 years before the Aztec Empire even existed. And by the time the Aztecs fell, Oxford had been open for over 4 centuries. Oxford has now been teaching for nearly 1,000 years. The entire Aztec Empire, its rise, its glory, its fall, fits inside Oxford's history like a footnote. So why does your brain get this so badly wrong? Because we anchor civilizations to how we encounter them, not when they existed. You encounter the Aztecs through ruins, through museums, through the word ancient. You encounter Oxford through news, through films, through living people who went there. One feels like the past, one feels like the present. But that feeling is not a timeline. That's just familiarity. The Aztecs built one of the most sophisticated civilizations in human history. Astronomy, agriculture, architecture, mathematics, a city in the middle of a lake that was larger than any city in Europe at the time. They just did it quickly and recently, far more recently than your brain thinks. And Oxford, that ancient cobblestoned gown-wearing institution, was already a going concern when the people who would eventually become the Aztecs were still wandering the highlands looking for an eagle on a cactus. Oxford, 1096, still open. The Aztec Empire, 1428 to 1521, gone in under a century. Your brain had them the wrong way round. History was lying to you. And now it can't anymore. Subscribe for more crazy stats from throughout history.